Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie Adams, and I'm just about to tell you how I went from living in a posh Manhattan penthouse to sleeping in a creepy old mansion straight out of a horror movie. You see, my parents were rich, and like most rich parents, they were never around. Growing up, I saw more of our housekeepers than Mom and Dad. This is why, when I got the news of them getting arrested for financial fraud, I didn't exactly break down crying. I was shocked, yes, but heartbroken? Not really. The real problem arrived when the bank sealed our penthouse and other properties, and all our bank accounts got frozen too. I immediately called our family lawyer. What do you mean all my credit cards are blocked? Miss Adams, that's the court's decision. How am I going to pay for my accommodation until this drama gets over? I have no idea. And this drama, it's not going to end anytime soon. The charges against your parents are serious. Okay, there has to be some way out. I can't live on the streets, for God's sake. Well, there is one place that still belongs to the Adams, the Blackthorn Manor. The Blackthorn Manor was an old estate in rural Texas that my grandfather owned before he died. For some reason, my parents hated it. They tried to sell it for years. Now, the moment the taxi dropped me off at its entrance, I understood why. The mansion stood alone in the middle of nowhere. Dark trees surrounded it from every side. The windows looked like empty eyes staring at me. Fantastic! This is exactly the sweet home I was hoping for. As I struggled with my suitcase, the front door creaked open. A tall and impossibly thin elderly man wearing a black hat stood there.
Miss Adams, I was expecting you.
Oh, hi. Nice to meet you. I smiled, but the man didn't smile back. Heck, he didn't even blink. You look almost as old as this house. You know, the same vintage aesthetic. I laughed at my silly joke, but the man simply stared at me.
I am Walter. I served your grandfather for 42 years.
42 years? Seriously? That's longer than my parents stayed interested in raising me. Again, no reaction. As Walter took the suitcase from my hands, I wondered if he was actually a person or just a very realistic wax statue.
I have prepared your room. It's down the hall to the left.
Walter began walking inside. I quietly followed him. Then, abruptly, he stopped and turned around.
This mansion has one rule everyone must obey. Never leave your room after midnight.
I laughed. Yeah, right. What else? Never eat a jar of Nutella in one go? But Walter remained completely serious. Wait, you're not joking?
No.
But why can't I come out of my room after midnight? Walter's expression hardened.
Because curiosity has consequences, and not very pleasant ones.
With that, he turned around and started walking again. Okay, that was officially the weirdest welcome speech ever. My first few days at the mansion were miserable. The internet barely worked. The nearest town was miles away. And Walter kept acting like he'd escaped from a Victorian ghost story. But then, one day, I met Ethan. He was a sweet guy around my age who worked as a gardener at the mansion. I met him while he was tending to roses in the backyard. Hi, you're Stephanie, right? Nice to have someone around here for a change. I bet more people would visit if not for those creepy midnight rules. He laughed.
I see Walter already briefed you about that. He gives that speech to everyone.
But why?
I don't know. Maybe he's seen things he wasn't meant to?
That answer somehow made me even more uncomfortable. Over the next week, Ethan became my only friend. We talked for hours about movies, music, life. My days at the mansion passed nicely, but the nights were a total disaster. Especially when I heard strange, terrifying noises, as if someone was crying in pain. The first time I heard it, I thought it was my mind playing tricks, but when the same thing happened night after night, that too exactly around midnight, I knew it was more than my imagination. One evening, I decided to tell Ethan about it. I swear this house hates me. It keeps making these weird, terrifying noises around midnight. Ethan chuckled.
Are you sure it's not just Walter coughing?
What? Come on, the guy looks older than half the furniture in this mansion. One bad coughing fit and it probably echoes through the entire building. Ethan did have a point. Maybe I was just being too paranoid. But the next morning, I found something on my desk that made my blood run cold. It was a dead rat with a note, "Leave before it's too late." I grabbed the paper and rushed out to find Walter polishing silverware down the hall. "Walter, what is this?" He looked up, stared at the note for a bit, and then calmly returned to polishing. "Throw it away." I stared at him in disbelief. "What? That's your response? Someone broke into my room, put a dead rat with this creepy note on my desk, and no one broke into your room." "Really? Then how did this get there?" Walter looked directly into my eyes. "Not everything in this house needs a key to enter your room, Miss Adams." I froze, because this time, Walter genuinely sounded afraid. That night, I locked my door, checked every window, and pulled the curtains shut. Yet, exactly midnight, the crying started again, louder than ever. My entire body shook with fear. Then something happened that made my blood turn to ice. Someone knocked on my bedroom door. There were 3 slow knocks, and then complete silence. Who's there?" No answer. Then a second later, another knock. I tried to switch on the light, but the power was out. So I grabbed my phone, turned on its flashlight, and slowly opened the door. The hallway was empty, but the crying sounds continued. They seemed to be coming from somewhere below. I couldn't take it anymore and decided to follow the sound. I almost reached the end of a corridor when suddenly a hand grabbed my shoulder from behind. "Ah!" I screamed and turned around, only to see Walter standing behind me. "What are you doing here at this time? I told you never to leave your room." "But you didn't tell me why." "Because you don't understand what you're dealing with." He practically dragged me back upstairs, and before leaving, he said something that haunted me all night. "Some secrets are better left buried, Miss Adams." The next morning, I told Ethan everything. By the end, he looked pale. "Well, it seems the legend about this place is true after all." "Legend? What legend?" "People believe your grandfather never left, that he's still around." "That's not funny." "I'm serious, Stephanie. They say he hid something inside the manor before he died, and now his ghost protects it." That day, for the first time, I genuinely considered leaving, even if that meant I had to live in a homeless shelter for a while. That afternoon, as I was packing my suitcase, a thought suddenly crossed my mind. Every time something spooky happened with me in Blackthorn Mansion, Walter somehow knew exactly where I was. I mean, the mansion was huge. There was no way this could be a coincidence unless someone was watching me. So the next morning, I approached Walter. "Walter, I need groceries." "We have groceries, Miss Adams." "Not the kind I want. Here's the list. Get this stuff from the nearest supermarket." The second Walter's car disappeared down the road, I ran to his quarters. After searching for nearly half an hour, I got tired and rested my back against the wardrobe, when suddenly it moved, and behind it was a hidden door. My heart racing wildly, I opened it and saw a staircase descend into darkness. Every instinct told me to run, but instead, I turned on my phone's flashlight and went down. The basement smelled damp and old, but it was surprisingly well maintained. Suddenly, I heard movement and swung my flashlight. I nearly screamed as I saw an elderly man sitting in a chair. He looked exactly like Walter. The man squinted as the flashlight shone on him. "Who's there?" I stepped closer. I'm Stephanie Adams." "Adams?" The old man looked confused. "Yeah, who are you?" "I'm Walter." The phone almost slipped from my hand when I heard that. If you are Walter, who's that guy upstairs I just sent to get groceries?" Before the old man could reply, a voice came from behind me. "I'll tell you who he is." I turned around in panic to see the fake Walter standing near the staircase. So you're back, huh? You were the one trying to scare me away, weren't you? That note? Those weird sounds at night? You were behind everything.
Yes, I was, he replied calmly. And you want to know the reason why? Suddenly, he removed his hat, and the fake gray hair came off along with it. Then he apparently removed a mask, and I got the biggest shock of my life. Ethan? Yes, it's me, Ethan Shelton, grandson of Walter Shelton. What Ethan told me next left me completely shook. My grandfather served yours for 4 decades. Your grandfather was so impressed with his loyalty that he left this mansion in his name. But when your parents discovered the arrangement, they couldn't accept it. So they forged documents to claim ownership, even when they were millionaires themselves. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. But why didn't Walter fight back? That's when the real Walter spoke up. I tried to, but they were too powerful. I decided to let it go, but I did make them promise to keep me employed here until my last breath. A year ago, Grandpa got into an accident. He suffered partial paralysis and was unfit to continue the job. That's when I decided to impersonate him, just to keep the paychecks coming. We needed the money for his treatment. Suddenly, everything started to make sense. Oh, so that's why you made me think this house was haunted. You wanted me gone. Yes, I thought you'd come to claim this mansion that rightfully belongs to my grandpa. Your parents literally stole it from him. Those words hit like a punch, but Ethan was right. My parents had scammed Walter, just like they had scammed several other people. I'm sorry for what my parents did, but let me tell you, I'm nothing like them.
With that, I walked upstairs and called our family lawyer. The following weeks became a whirlwind. A team of lawyers reviewed documents, investigations reopened, and the evidence was undeniable. The lawful owner of Blackthorn Manor was Walter indeed. The day we finally signed the papers, Walter's hands trembled as tears filled his eyes. I never thought I'd see this day. Then he quietly placed a small wooden box in my hands. Your grandfather wanted you to have this. He said it should go to the only Adams with an honest heart. I opened the box. Inside was a beautiful old silver watch. A week later, when an appraiser examined the watch, he nearly fell out of his chair. Turns out it was an extremely rare collector's piece worth over $500,000. That was enough for me to buy a small apartment and start over. I invested it in some stocks, and within months, they multiplied. Today, I'm one of the youngest stockbrokers in the market, earning decent enough to lead a respectable life. I still visit Walter at the Blackthorn Manor from time to time. Ethan still works the gardens. And yes, we're friends again. Though I still remind him that those fake ghost-crying voices were completely psychotic. Do you folks agree?